All right, Dinesh D'Souza promoting false prophecy scenarios. False prophecy scenarios promoted by Dinesh D'Souza, Dr. James Tour, and I think Jonathan Kahn makes this, dragon and the woman being the Jews or the modern nation state of Israel. These people are confused about if it's the modern nation state of Israel or if it's all Jews scattered throughout the world. Represents the woman of Revelation chapter 12. Let's listen to Dinesh and his false interpretation of Revelation chapter 12.
The woman, and went away to make war with the rest of her seed, that keep the commandments of God and hold the testimony of Jesus. Revelation 12:17.
I think for the same reason, Satan targets the Jews. If the Jews are the people of God, if Jews are the chosen ones, then Satan goes, all right, I'm going to drive them out of their homeland from the river to the sea. And not only that, I'm going to take their holiest site, the temple, the Solomonic temple, and I'm going to put on it an Islamic victory arch called the Dome of the Rock, and adjoining it a mosque, the Al-Aqsa Mosque.
Well, that was Herod's temple was the last temple that was destroyed, not the Solomonic temple. That was destroyed by the Babylonian Empire under Nebuchadnezzar. But notice that it's the idea that the woman here who flees into the wilderness, where she has a place prepared by God in which she is to be nourished for 1,260 days, for Dinesh D'Souza, that's Israel or the Jews. And again, these people are confused about, is it Israel or is it the Jews scattered throughout the world, including some in the modern nation state of Israel? They're all confused about that. But this woman right here, clothed with the sun in Revelation chapter 12, verse 1, this represents Israel. This does. It represents the Old Testament church, Old Testament Israel. And here is the imagery is taken from Genesis chapter 37, verses 9 through 11. Joseph's second dream there in Genesis 37. The woman represents all the sons of Israel or Jacob in totality. Remember that the term Israel is a spiritual name that was given to Jacob. It was not his birth name. It was a spiritual name given to Jacob. The term Israel has always been a spiritual label or annotation. But here we have, after the ascension, she gave birth to a male child, that is Israel, the church of the Old Testament, brought forth the Messiah, who is to rule all the nations. But her child was raptured up to God and to his throne. That's the ascension of Jesus into heaven. But the woman fled into wilderness where she is to be nourished for 1,260 days. Now, where do we see that 1,260 days the first time? It's also given in verse 14 down here. When the dragon saw that he had been thrown down to the earth, got kicked out of heaven, he pursued the woman who had given birth to the male child, but the woman was given 2 wings of the great eagle so that she might fly from the serpent in the wilderness to a place where she is to be nourished for a time, times, and half a time. Same as the 1,260 days. The first place we ever see that in all of Scripture, that time prophecy, is in Daniel chapter 7. So if we go down to Daniel chapter 7, we see Daniel sees, and God gives him this vision of this future, what is to come, and he sees 4 great beasts that come up out of the sea, and these are, of course, representative of empires. The first one being the one in which Daniel was living, the Neo-Babylonian, or simply the Babylonian Empire, followed by the Medo-Persian Empire. The second beast, a third like a leopard, that's the Grecian Empire and the conquest of Alexander the Great. And then a fourth beast, terrifying and dreadful, exceedingly strong, that represents the Roman Empire. And then at the fall of the Roman Empire is made up of about 10 tribal nation states, and these are represented by the 10 horns. 3 of the 10 would be plucked up by the roots before this little horn could arise, having a mouth speaking great things. That is the Antichrist. Then we have an heavenly interlude right here, verses 9 and 10, then back down to the earth, the great words that the horn was speaking, etc. Then another heavenly interlude right here, the ascension of Christ, 13 and 14. As for me, Daniel, my spirit within me was anxious. He had anxiety, and the visions of his head alarmed me. But I asked him the truth concerning all this. So despite his anxiety, he still wanted to know the truth. I desired to know the truth about the fourth beast and the 10 horns, and the other horn that came up, before which 3 fell, that had a mouth speaking great things. This horn made war with the saints and prevailed over them. Notice, this is not until after the fall of the Roman Empire that this little horn arises. The fall of the Roman Empire in the 5th century AD. Notice, this little horn shall speak words against the Most High, wear out the saints of the Most High, think to change the times in the law. They shall be given into his hand for a time, times, and half a time. Daniel chapter 7, verse 25, a time, times, half a time. That's exactly where this language is coming from in Revelation chapter 12, is from Daniel chapter 7. So Daniel and Revelation, they are synoptic. They're seeing the same thing. Two or more seeing the same thing. Synoptic. So this woman in verse 6 of Revelation chapter 12, represents the New Testament church. Not Israel, not the Jews, not unbelieving Jews. It's the whole church, made up of both Jews and Gentiles, obviously. But mostly Gentiles at this point. So this 1260 days represents a literal 1260 years of papal persecution from the time period of after the fall of the Roman Empire all the way up to about the 18th century, when the papal Antichrist receives a deadly wound. But what Dinesh D'Souza and the Futurists want to say is that this woman still represents the modern nation state of Israel today, after 1948, as she'll be persecuted for apparently 3.5 literal years. So that's their false application of this. Whereas this text in Revelation chapter 12 actually teaches that there is one woman, not two different women, one woman. This woman clothed with the sun is Israel, or the Old Testament church before the first advent. This woman in the wilderness for 1260 literal years is the church, the New Testament Israel, after the first advent. But it's the same woman here. Notice Revelation chapter 13 brings this out very nicely. When the dragon saw that he had been thrown, he pursued the woman who had given birth to the male child. Who was that? Israel, the church of the Old Testament. But the woman flees from the serpent to be nourished for a time, times, half a time. That woman is the New Testament church. They're the same entity in Bible prophecy, the same entity, not two different entities, as people like Dinesh D'Souza want to falsely claim. Okay? So messing around and playing fast and loose with God's prophetic word. That's what these men are doing, because they abandoned the Reformation. They abandoned men like Jonathan. Here's John Gill first. Let's go to Dr. John Gill. His exposition of the whole Bible, Christianity.com. And we're going to go to Revelation chapter 11. Watch what Dr. John Gill says about this. And I think verse 2 or 3, verses 2 and 3 both have the 1260 years or 1260 days, 42 months, time times half a time, which using day equals year principle. The holy city they shall tread underfoot 40 and 2 months. Now, who is that? The court is given unto the Gentiles, by whom are meant the papists, who are no other than paganized Christians, having introduced a great deal of Gentilism into the divine service, as the worshiping of the Virgin Mary, angels, saints departed, which is in imitation of the demon worship of the heathens, as also the dedication of their churches to saints, their saints' days, diverse festivals, many other rites and ceremonies, are plainly a pagan original, and therefore they may very well be called by this name. Okay, the 42 months, right here, time times half a time, 1260 days. Being reduced to years makes just 3.5 years, but then this date cannot be understood strictly and literally. No, it's symbolic. The book of Revelation is highly symbolic, so the time prophecies are highly symbolic as well. For such a term can never be sufficient for the whore's reign, Revelation chapter 17, who is to rule over the kings of the earth and all nations that were to drink of the wine of her fornication. This is too short a time for her to gain so much power, honor, and riches. This is Dr. John Gill in his exposition on Revelation chapter 11, verses 2 and 3. Too short a time for the afflictions and persecutions of the saints by her. Wherefore, this must be understood prophetically of so many months of years. Okay? Reckoning a day for a year after the prophetic style make 1260 years, which is the exact time of the witnesses prophesying, Revelation 11. The church is being hid and nourished in the wilderness, Revelation chapter 12, and of the beast's reign of the holy city be trodden underfoot. Okay? 1260 years. Now, that's Dr. John Gill. Let's go to Jonathan Edwards, who was contemporaneous with John Gill, though they lived on opposite sides of the Atlantic. Dr. John Gill being a Brit, being in England, and Jonathan Edwards being 100% Native American. Conceived, born, and raised in America. That means he's Native American. Not indigenous American, but native to these lands. Period 3, History of Work of Redemption by Jonathan Edwards in volume 1 of his works. And I'm going to go down to part 4, to the Reformation, just where he points out the time when the reign of Antichrist began. It is certain that the 1260 days or years, which are so often in Scripture mentioned, did not begin before the year of Christ 479 or 476, I would say. Okay? But Dinesh D'Souza and others are futurists. They're not historicists. John Gill, Jonathan Edwards, all the Reformation, these were all historicists, not preterists and not futurists. But see, this is where his futurist nonsense is coming in, and he's playing fast and loose with Bible prophecy in order to make his point. He skips over Revelation 12, verses 7 through 12, where we have the argument, the great debate in heaven. This is a debate war. A war arose in heaven. This was a debate, not a physical war. Michael and his angels fighting against the dragon. The dragon and his angels fought back, but he was defeated. No longer any place for Satan and his angels in heaven. The dragon, Satan, was thrown down to the world. That ancient serpent, taking us back to Genesis chapter 3, who was called the devil and Satan, the deceiver of the whole world, was thrown down. And a loud voice in heaven saying, now the salvation. This was the debate topic. Salvation, power, the power of salvation, the kingdom of our God and salvation, the authority of his Christ and salvation of his people, the accuser of our brethren having been thrown down. They have conquered him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony. And notice this, the dragon became furious with the woman and went off to make war on the rest of her offspring, on those who keep the commandments of God and hold to the testimony of Jesus. Do most Jews today hold to the testimony of Jesus? No, they don't. Who does? The church. The church. But Dinesh D'Souza and others, because they just have their eyes fixated on the modern nation state of Israel as somehow fulfillment of Bible prophecy or fulfillment of Bible prophecy will come on that nation somehow, and all this stuff. Sheer nonsense. They're digging in the wrong place, Indy. Okay? Let me know what you think in the comments down below. More falsehoods, errors, and lies. That this is all becoming more and more apparent as we move toward the end times. Talk to you soon. Lord willing, Soli Deo Gloria.